right, it's time for some more exam revision. We're going to use the SCSA sample paper and work our way through it. Now, hopefully music is more than just a number. Hopefully you're developing some skills that you can use to write music and be creative and do all that kind of stuff. But you've got an exam, so we'll do some preparation for that. In this one, we're going to look at some oral stuff. Some of it's quite tricky, so don't be worried if you don't get it perfect. Maybe 50% is going to be a good mark for quite a few people in this one. Let's go for it. Do a process. 3:54, right? The time. You're listening to stuff, trying to work it out. You can easily waste huge amounts of time in this section. Listen to track 2. Make sure you know what one you're doing. Complete the melody by writing the 2 missing notes. Now, that is important that you underline that, because the last question, question A, you don't have to write down the stuff. So that's useful to know. Name the interval. Yep, that's easy. State the modulation. Okay, so let's attack it one at a time. We'll do the first one at the top there. We'll listen to it and we'll write down the 2 missing notes. What are we doing over here? Track 2. Okay, well that's actually going to be a relatively easy 1 mark here, because what do we got here? That went like this. Now if that first one is hard for you, then you're going to really struggle with oral, because that's going from that note back to that note. So that should be pretty obvious. Now the next note is a little bit trickier because it's an interval and it's a kind of jump. Now, as I said in another video, you can do it a lot of ways and they're all useful. So you could be doing little songs to do your intervals, such as Amazing Grace. Or you might be doing do, re, mi, or you might be doing technical scale degree names or numbers or functions, or you might be listening for arpeggios or scales, all that kind of stuff and patterns. Now, for this one, I reckon there's 2 ways to do it. You can hear the song, which is Amazing Grace. Or you could hear that it goes back to home. It's back at home. So what are we doing? Let's write it in. That's the tonic or the home or the do. So we're back to E flat there. Put the stem the right way. 2 marks. Tick. Done. Name the interval. Well, we're going from B flat to E flat. So we count the numbers first because it's too small for me to do that. So I'm going to count up 4. Then it can be either minor, major, perfect, augmented or diminished. If it's from the major scale, it's major or perfect. So is E flat from B flat major because B flat major is the lowest? Yes, it is. Therefore, it has to be major or perfect. But there's no such thing as a major 4th, therefore it has to be a perfect 4th. So the answer should be perfect 4th. Okay, let's get rid of all that for a second and let's do this one down here, modulation. So our options for modulation are relative minor, subdominant, or dominant. It's worth writing those out because otherwise it feels like a tough question. So almost certainly this last note here is going to be either the 6th, the 4th, or the 5th. It could not be, but it's almost certainly going to be right, and that's going to tell us what the modulation is. So, do I know it? Can I remember this? I'll just play it again. So this would be an example where this, if you're doing only doing the melodies intervals like the Amazing Grace, this question is almost impossible if that's the way you are doing things, because it's so hard, this little bit. What you need to be able to hear is that last note is the 5th from where we started. So what does it go? There's home up there. That's the 5th. Now it sounds a little bit weird because it's got this note before. very strong leading tone, and it sounds like a weird non-diatonic note. It feels a little bit not like a so or do or the fifth, but it is the fifth. And then we go back to the start. So it is the fifth at the end there, and the fifth is the dominant. So we would say it's dominant, and that's that one done. It's very hard to do these questions as a video, but I am willing to take on the challenge. Okay, let's try the next one. Right, process 359. To write the time, could take you a lot of time to muck around with this track. Track 3, make sure we listen to the right one. Complete the bass line, but correct time signature. Okay, rhythm, providing we don't care. Rest, ties. Okay, rest, well that's important here. I probably wouldn't have read that because that's not even in the question. Okay, and can I narrow down any options here? Well, I mean, these guys here, I mean, that looks suspiciously like that's going to be eighth notes. So that might be a narrowing down. And also, I could write down some rhythm names, right? That would be helpful. I could go tar, that's a crotchet. T, T, on a scrap bit of paper, I might write this down. What have I got? Tiki, tiki, tika, 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 however you do them. T, tar, T. You might want to write down a few. So if you hear them, you can really quickly go, oh, that's the T, tar, T, that looks like that. So that might be a nice, simple way of doing it. Let's get rid of all that. Let's have a listen. Okay, stop. Right, now, hopefully you could hear that that was T, 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 T. Too low for me. T, T, T. Right, and then maybe you could have worked out that that one here is also a T, T. Hopefully you could hear that. If you can't hear that, it's going to be tough to do the rest of this. Now, this question from here on is going to be very difficult because you can't use your usual rhythm names because it's all syncopated. So how are we going to do it? First off, we're going to go back and do the question. So we know it's 4/4, so there's an extra mark. And we've got ties. Well, the only notes left that can be tied are this one and this one, or this one and this one. I mean, if you're really just playing around and trying to get good marks, you could just put ties on both of them and hope for the best, see what happens. I mean, it could work, and then move on. Or we could do it. So it's syncopated. So the trick with syncopation, I think, is to hear when it comes back onto the beat. So I have to get rid of all this so I can draw stuff. But out of all these notes, which ones are on the beat? And the answer is none. So how do we get all of these notes off the beat? So if we go, let's say this is a TT, which it is, then this note here somehow has to be off the beat. The only way we can get this off the beat, if there's a rest here, really is to do a dotted thing like this. So that becomes a 16th. This note here, if that's a 16th, that's on the beat. We can't have anything on the beat because everything's syncopated. So that's got to be a tie. Then that's got to be something. Then that's got to be something. It's got to be off the beat. So the only way to get it off the beat is to make it an 8th note and then this a 16th like that. If this one here is on the beat, it is not syncopated. We can't have anything on the beat because it didn't sound like that. So this also has to be a tie. And then these all just sort of fall into the next bar. Da-ta-ta. Right. Now, I would suggest at this point to see if you can do the bottom section yourself without me. And that's would be a good little test for you to do there. Am I going to do it so you know the answer? I guess so. Pause the video though. So we went T, T, rest. It's the same rest. Then we're going to go a 16th. This one's not on the beat, so this has got to be a 16th off the beat. Whoa. Off the beat. I wonder if this is even on the screen anymore. Another tie. That's a tough question. All right. Where are we at? I think that's going to be it for this little bit of revision. Good luck, and I will see you on the next video.